Hi there once again and welcome to another Expresso Mechanic tutorial, and this will be episode 14 in the series Python Bytes. In this one we're going to be taking a look at the string data type because VideoFX, who's one of my subscribers, was having a few issues with it. He didn't quite understand how you could compare strings to each other and stuff like that. So I thought, well, if he's having a few issues understanding that, then maybe there'll be others who feel the same way. So I decided to make a Python Bytes video on it. That's what we're about in this tutorial, so without further ado, let's see if we can make this happen. The first thing I'm going to do is bring in a null, and I'll add an Expresso tag. In here, I will add a Python node, because that will be the basis of what we're going to do here. We're just going to use the Python node and nothing else. We'll also bring in a text spline, and we'll drop that text spline holding down the option key into an extrude, and we'll make the offset 20. Just leave it at that, and well, for the sake of it, let's change the text spline font, and we'll make it copper plate, which I always use for Expresso Mechanic. And we'll bring that in. Where are we? Where's copper plate? There it is. Okay, so we've got our text spline set up, and in the extrude we might as well put a bit of rounding on the caps, just a centimetre on there. And for the sake of it, let's give this a colour. Why not? Let's make it a sort of light yellow, something like that, just a little tint of green in it. That'll do nicely. That'll serve our purposes. Okay. Up here we can just resize things a little bit so that we can see what we're doing, because we're only going to be bringing in the actual text spline here. We'll give it a text spline input port, and that's fine. That's all set up and ready to go. Now, our Python node here, we're going to delete the ports at the input stage. We don't need them. We'll delete this port and we'll add a string port, and we'll call this, oops, I've just deleted it, we'll just add it again. We'll call this text in small letters. That'll do nicely. Okay, so that's all ready to go, and this can be plumbed into here when the time comes. So in our Python node, let's just switch to a scripting layout, select this, and open in editor. So in here we can just get rid of this line because we don't need it. We don't need anything other than global text, which just defines the output stage. We can leave that there. That's absolutely fine. The next thing I'm going to do is add a string, and we'll call this letter string. Let's just add another carriage return there just to get a bit more space between the lines. And we will say is equal to, single quotes are fine, a few spaces, the word hello, exclamation mark, and a few more spaces. And you'll see why I've put those spaces in a little bit later. So we've got a string defined. The first thing that we can see here, or the first thing that we can note, is that we can use the len function that we use with lists with strings. It's fine to use that. So if I say print brackets len brackets letter underscore string double close, we should get the length of that string that we've got here. That includes the spaces. We will get that printed in here. So we've got that all sorted out. Now at the moment, if I just hit the execute button, we don't get anything. The reason for that is because we need to connect this output to here. And now we do. We can see that we do. We've got 18 up there. We've also got an error because we're not sending anything to here. So what we need to do in order to get everything working is say text is equal to letter string, and I'll just put, we can put, if we wish, 0 in there, and we'll just get one letter. So we won't get anything actually. If we execute it, we don't get anything because we're getting one of the spaces. So we need to say well, I don't know quite what we do need to say. Let's say 9, and let's see what we get now. And we get the L, so we're getting one of the L's. So let's try 7 and see if we get the H. We get the E, so it's best off using 6 then to get the H. And you can see that that works fine. Okay, so that's one of the things we can do, or we can just simply say letter string, execute that, and we get the spaces, then we get the word hello, and we also get the spaces after it, which of course we can't see. So there'll be some more spaces filling in this space here. So that's how that works. That's the first thing that we can note. Now let's think about comparisons with strings. Now we know that the H is the 6th character within this string, because if we just said brackets 6, we would only get the H. We know that that's a fact. So what we can do is start to look at this in terms of comparison. So if we want to compare the value of the H with the E, we can say if letter underscore string, and we can say brackets 6 is greater than letter string brackets 7, print, and we'll say brackets single quotes greater. We'll put an else condition in, print, and say lower. Okay, and that's all we're going to do in there. Let's see if it works. And it says it's greater. And the reason that it's greater is because H has a higher value than E in terms of its ASCII codes. Now, what are ASCII codes? Well, we can have a quick look at those. Let's see where we are. We've got some bits and pieces available to us on the screen here. That's Python methods. I don't necessarily want that. Let's just close that down. Let's see where my ASCII codes are. I've got them somewhere. Oh, actually, I know they are in this. ASCII codes are here. Right, okay, so I've got an ASCII code conversion chart here. That's what it is. So we can see, if we look at where a small h and a small e are, we can see that the h has a decimal value here. So we're in the decimal column. The h has a decimal value of 104, whereas the e has a decimal value of 101. So that's why the h is greater. That's how this works within the ASCII codes. Okay, that's just to clarify that. So you can do that kind of comparison with strings very, very easily, but you're comparing letters to each other, but internally Python is looking at these decimal codes. It's looking at the ASCII values. It may even be looking at the binary values at grassroots level, but that's how it tends to work. So you're not actually comparing the letters really, you're comparing numbers, the numbers that represent the letters. That's how that works, but it's done for you internally. Okay, so hopefully that clarifies that, and we can move on and take a look at some of the other methods that we can use within our Python code for dealing with strings. I'll just go back to here and we'll go into this Python string methods, which I've got here on the screen. This is W3 Schools. They're not sponsoring my video. They just happen to be a good place to find out about this stuff. But you can see these are all the methods that are used for dealing with strings, and you can see there's a lot of them. Now, I'm not going to be using all of these in this tutorial. I'm just going to be looking at a handful of them. But if you want to go here, you can click on these and it will give you the code and you can run it for yourself and you can see exactly how it works. So it's a good place to go for this kind of stuff. So W3 Schools. But anyway, let's get back to Cinema 4D. And we'll take a look at a few of these methods. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to move this piece of code, just move it to the bottom here. I'll just put a bit of space in there and paste it in there because it needs to be the last line of code really. We'll triple quote this out to turn it into a remark, so it's not going to be used anymore. And now we can look at a few methods. So the first thing that we're going to look at is indexing. So if we want to know the index value of, say, the H, what we can do is say print, and we can say brackets letter underscore string, and it will be dot index open brackets single quotes H, close single quotes and double close. And if we execute that, let's see where we are. We've got an unexpected indent error. That's because of this last line of code. I've just put it one space too many. Let's just execute that. And now we can see that we've still got the print length. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just remove that for now. Or in fact, I'll quote it out, just comment it out just with a hash. And then if we just do this again, we can see that we've got 6. So the H, we know that its index value was 6 because when we said that we wanted to use the 6th element of our string, it gave us the H here, didn't it? So we've got a 6 there. Similarly, if we wish to, we could just say L. Now this one is interesting because that will return 8. So that the E is obviously the 7, it just returns 8. It didn't return 9, and it won't return 9 because it will always return the lowest index value. So if you've got 2 L's in a row, you're going to get the lowest one. It won't, well, it will just completely ignore the following one. So that's just a sort of foible of the way the indexing function actually works. So don't be alarmed if you always get the lowest value. That's just the way it's designed to work. But that's indexes. So let's just put a hash in front of that line so that we comment it out. What else can we do from here? Well, we have a count method open to us, and that will allow us to count the number of similar letters that there are within a string, or similar characters, I suppose I should say. We'll take a look at that. So if we say print brackets letter underscore string dot count brackets, and again we might as well say L because we've got 2 of those. So we'll do that and double close, and let's see what we get now. We get 2 at the bottom. So that's exactly what we want because of course we've got 2 of them. If we were to say O, we'll get 1 because of course we've only got 1 O. And similarly, if we wish to, we could also put the exclamation mark in there and it will return 1 again because it doesn't care what characters they are. They don't have to be letters. They can be letters, numbers or symbols. So it all works fine with the count there. It will give you the number of different elements that you've got in there. So that's great. We'll move on from here. Just comment that one out. Now earlier I said that I'd added the spaces at the beginning and the end of the string for a reason, and it's because I wanted to show you that you can actually remove these. There are methods for removing them. So the next thing we're going to say is print brackets letter string, and it will be dot, and I'm going to say R strip close or open close and then close again so that we get double close at the end. Now what this is actually going to do is remove the spaces on the right hand side of the string. So when we execute this, it prints the string, and we can't really see any difference because we've got no difference in here and we've got no difference with what we've printed, but the string no longer has the spaces on the right side. They're gone. So when we have spaces on either side of a string, this is referred to as white space. That's the technical term for it. So that's done its job, but we can't really see a difference. However, if we copy this line and drop it beneath and we comment out the first line, we can simply say L strip in there, and if we execute that, now we do get a difference. We can see that this has moved back over here because these have been taken away. Now we haven't made any changes to the actual string in here. This has not been changed here, and we're just putting the standard letter string out. If we want to actually put a new string out, what we need to do is say new string is equal to, and we can say letter underscore string, and we can say dot lstrip, open close, and here text is equal to new string. Execute that, and now we do get the string without the spaces pushed over to here. The spaces at the right hand side are actually still there, so not to worry about those so much, but they are still there. Now, another thing that we can do is think about capitalization of the first letter of our string, because at the moment we've got all lowercase letters. So if we wanted to capitalize the H and leave everything else alone, we can actually do that too. So what we can do to do that, we can simply say final string. Actually, I should put an underscore there. Final string is equal to new string dot capitalize, open close, and in here text is equal to final string. If we execute that, let's see what we get. In fact, what we should do probably first is actually say print final underscore string. Okay, let's do that, see what we get. So here we can see that we've got it. We've got a capital letter on the H in here, and we did actually get a difference in here. It's difficult to see so much with the typeface that I've got, but you can visibly see that this H is slightly bigger than it was before. Okay, so let's just do that again. If we go back here and we just put new string in there and execute that, we can see that the H is now a smaller H, you see, but in here it's still a large H. So let's just do it as final once again and just see that, and there you go, it's bigger. And that's about it. I'm not going to go any further into the methods, but as I say, you've got them here. Have a look at them, see what you can do, have a play around with them, check out the examples, just click on them and it will give you the code for the examples, so it will show you exactly how to set them up. And then you can apply them to what we're doing here in Cinema. You know, so have a really good play around with them and see how they work, because it's quite fascinating what you can do with these, and it goes to show you just how versatile strings actually are. They're incredibly versatile as a data type. But anyway, that's about what I wanted to show you in this tutorial. So as always, I really hope you've got a lot out of this one and that you've learned some new techniques that you can apply to your own projects. And if you have enjoyed the video, then please give it a like, and if you haven't already, then please subscribe to the channel, and of course leave a comment and ring the bell. And wherever you happen to be on social media, please share this video, because all this good stuff really does help keep the channel moving in the right direction. But anyway, that about brings the curtain down on this one, so I'll see you very soon on the next tutorial.